Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, April 10th. It looks like a relatively quiet week across the nation. This week there'll be a warm air surge into the eastern states after what was a chilly Easter weekend in the mid-Atlantic region of northeast U.S. Both the last couple of nights, temperatures dropped down to near the freezing level. Many of the suburban areas along the I-95 corridor region, that's despite some sunshine during the days. It'll gradually warm up this week, and places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City should end up well up in the 80s by later in the week. We're talking certainly Thursday and Friday, maybe even Wednesday in the D.C. metro region. They'll be up into the 80s. We are not quite done with cold air outbreaks yet into the central and eastern U.S. We'll take a look at that in a moment. First, I wanted to start off with the latest look at the sea surface temperatures around the world. We're starting to gear up for a tropical season here, and pretty soon we'll be putting out a tropical outlook, largely based on the sea surface temperatures, not only in the Atlantic Ocean, but in the Pacific Ocean as well. And we certainly are starting to see signs for an El Nino, warmer than normal conditions in the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean that plays a crucial role in not only the Pacific Ocean tropical activity, but the Atlantic Basin as well. We've had back-to-back La Nina years with colder than normal temperatures in the tropical Pacific, but this is starting to look like not only an El Nino, but perhaps a moderate, maybe even a strong El Nino over the coming months. Here's the latest sea surface temperature anomaly chart from around the world, and notice right off the west coast of South America, you're starting to see a lot of warm and even some quite warmer than normal conditions relative to normal. We had La Nina conditions right in this region for the last few years with colder than normal conditions. It is now near normal right across the equator, and this line right here represents the 0-degree latitude, the equator, and warmer than normal conditions already starting to show up again right here. That'll intensify and will start to spread to the west here over the next couple of months. We'll see an increase, I'm quite sure, in the sea surface temperatures relative to normal, leading up to El Nino conditions for the upcoming tropical season. Well, here's a compilation of forecast maps with respect to ENSO, or the El Nino Southern Oscillation, and it certainly confirms the idea that El Nino will form in the tropical Pacific Ocean. This is the neutral line right here. Anything above that is considered to be El Nino conditions right in this region right here. Anything below that, La Nina conditions. And this is the current time period right here. And here we can look all the way out to June, July, and August. This particular type of map has rolling 3-month averages. And you can see on average, it ramps up to above the neutral zone into El Nino territory. This is a series of models here, and one of, for example, right here, this green one represents the UK Met model right in this region right here. And again, most of these are between 0 and 1 degree for the June, July, August time period. That's moderately strength. El Nino is a couple that have it even stronger than that, but certainly the trend is pretty consistent among all these models, with the change from what was La Nina to El Nino over the next couple of months, and certainly into that tropical season, which is right in here, June, July, August, September, and all the way into the middle of the fall, August, September, October. Looks like El Nino. And by the way, it looks like El Nino is likely to continue into next winter season, which would be quite a change compared to the last few, with, again, going through back-to-back La Nina winters. It looks like this upcoming winter season will be El Nino dominated, with those warmer than normal conditions in the tropical Pacific. Well, we mentioned it looks like a relatively quiet pattern, at least for much of the country, over the next several days. This is a forecast map from the 0Z GFS for total accumulated precipitation, the liquid equivalent precipitation over the next 10 days. A couple highlights here. First of all, California, pretty much dry for the central and southern part of the state. Still decent rainfall way up north, but kind of a change in the pattern, certainly for the central and southern part of the state. Not much going on at all over the Sierra Nevada mountains, which of course have been pounded by storm after storm in recent months. Quite a bit of precipitation up here over the northern plains as well. We'll see in a moment on the snowfall forecast map that much of this is likely to fall in the form of snow. Certainly not done with winter conditions up across the northern plains. And there is a system over the Gulf of Mexico that will produce a decent amount of rainfall for the northern Gulf region as well. Well, in terms of snowfall for the next 10 days, again using the 0Z GFS, nothing over at least the central and southern Sierra Mountains. Maybe up in the north, there's still some snow over the next several days, but the big news here will be potential snowstorm up across Minnesota, for example, maybe the North Dakota. Looks like that would be later this upcoming weekend. So, excuse me, so still several days away from that possibility. We're talking Sunday, Monday, maybe, about a week from now. But still, the possibility of significant accumulating snow across parts of the northern U.S. over the next 10 days. Well, let's wrap up by looking at the 850 millibar temperature anomalies from the 0Z GFS. And again, we went through a chilly air mass over this past weekend in the mid-Atlantic, the northeast U.S. temperatures well below normal. That's kind of identified here with these purples and blues here across the southeastern U.S. into the mid-Atlantic region as we begin the day here on Monday. But a lot of warmer than normal conditions over the northern U.S. into the southern part of Canada, even California now with a warmer than normal pattern here. Now, let's go forward here. And again, the possibility is definitely still there for some cold air outbreaks into the central and eastern U.S. And we'll see that in a moment here. Here we go. By the middle of the week, very, very mild conditions up across the northern plains relative to normal, and start spilling out over into the mid-Atlantic, the northeast U.S. Again, on Wednesday, there's a chance D.C. could see 80 degrees, and certainly by Thursday and Friday, it looks like 80s for D.C., Philadelphia, and New York City. In fact, let's go into the latter part of the week. The real boost in temperatures relative to normal will be across the northern plains, the Great Lakes region, into the mid-Atlantic and northeast U.S. This is late in the day on Thursday, and we go into Friday. Very, very warm conditions indeed. Finally, for New England, for the mid-Atlantic region, again, the 80s look like they'll be commonplace in the mid-Atlantic, the northeast U.S. Thursday and Friday of this week. We start to see some colder than normal air returning to the western U.S. We go farther in time here. Again, we talked about the potential of a snowstorm up across Minnesota, North Dakota, and here's that cold air blast by the latter part of the upcoming weekend. This is the Sunday morning forecast map, still hanging on to warm conditions in the eastern U.S. at this time, but we certainly still have some cold air outbreaks coming into the central and eastern U.S. This is a week from now, actually a week from tomorrow. Next Tuesday, April 18th, a cold shot here, and we'll go out quickly farther out in time, and here we go. We still have some cold air outbreaks to deal with in much of the northern U.S. This is all the way now into the end of next week and all the way out to April 22nd here. Still a lot of normal, below normal conditions here temperature-wise across the northern U.S. So we're not quite done with the cold air outbreaks in the nation. The central and eastern U.S., certainly the northern U.S., continues to get these cold air outbreaks. Watch for potential snowstorm up across the northern plains over the upcoming weekend and the early part of next week. California, for the most part, at least the southern half, dries out over the next several days, and we'll certainly continue to monitor the development of El Nino in the tropical Pacific Ocean over the next several weeks. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.